Good afternoon. My name is Onika Williams, and I am Chair of the National Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. We are pleased to be presenting this presentation with the South Asian Bar Association today, Young Lawyers Division. Today's program is meant to offer you support and encouragement during this time of bar study. As the soon-to-be newest members of our profession, we hope that you know that you have a nationwide network of young lawyers ready to welcome you with open arms and celebrate with you when outside opens again. Best wishes and enjoy the program.
Thank you, Unika. My name is Asta Madan. I am the president of South Asian Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. I'll be moderating the program today. Before we dive into introductions for our speakers, a couple of housekeeping things. We did request that everyone submit questions in advance, so the majority of today's program will be comprised of us answering your questions, not me, the other speakers that are actually qualified to answer. So they will be answering your questions, and we are just here to be a resource to all of you, so we'll focus most of our time on the questions. If you have questions as we're progressing, please put them in the Q&A box. If on your screen, it should be at the bottom, right after where it says video, it'll be next to the participants button. I'm not sure what you are seeing, but there's a Q&A box where you can put in your questions, and then I will convey them to the panelists. And without further ado, I will go ahead with the introductions. I'm going to ask each of you to just introduce yourselves. Jonathan, why don't we start with you?
Good afternoon, everyone. I know everyone's super busy preparing the final month for the bar exam. We're definitely pulling for you. It's been postponed a couple months from where we were normally expecting it, but best of luck. I'm Jonathan Chu. I'm the co-director of the AIDS program at the University of San Francisco School of Law, and I'm happy to be here.
I can jump in next. My name is Chris Edidon. I'm the Assistant Dean for Academic Success at UC Davis School of Law here in California. I've worked with students across the nation. I've worked extensively with people on the UBE, which covers a lot of our states, as well as the California bar exam. And I'm just looking forward to sharing what thoughts and advice that we might have for you today.
I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. I am Professor Tatisha Jackson. I am the Assistant Professor of Lawyering Skills and Director of Academic Success and Bar Preparation at Penn State Dickinson Law. I have approximately 10 years of bar prep experience. Prior to working in academia, I did work for Barbary as the Director of Legal Education, have experience working on the institutional side as well as the substance of the course. I helped prepare some of that material, so worked for them for about 5 years. I've also, like Christopher, prepared students for the UBE and basically all exams across the country. So I am familiar with the exam and all components of it, and I look forward to answering your questions today. Thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. My name is rhubat. I'm a partner at Major Lindsay in Africa. We are the world's largest recruiting firm. But prior to that, I'm also a Barbary alum. I was a director in their New York office, as well as a staff attorney. Before that, prior to law school, I was an LSAT instructor. Standardized tests are my bag. It's something that I'm pretty good at still, and I'm here representing the South Asians. So excited, excited for you all. I know this is a crazy time. I remember my bar summer well, but I know you all can do this, and happy to help in any way we can today.
Thank you. So we've divided up the questions. We received over 40 questions, and we've divided them into a couple of broad questions. So we've covered every single person's questions that were submitted in the Zoom sign up. So we'll go ahead and start with actually the time management tips, because that was probably the second most common question. And whoever wants to start can jump in, but how to manage your time well during the last stretch, how to divide it up, how to, balance your personal life and health, etc. So pretty broad scope here. Feel free to jump in whatever order you all wish.
I can jump in with time management. I think it's important to make sure that you have a schedule that is feasible and reasonable for all of the assignments that are assigned to you from your commercial provider, and if your school offers any supplemental prep. You have to have balance there. I am a firm believer that you need to take advantage of the times that you are most efficient. I call them your peak times. If you're a morning learner, you need to take advantage by waking up earlier in the morning and making sure you're watching your lectures, reviewing your notes, and trying to do practice. It's actually good at this point to start doing practice in the morning, considering that you'll be doing a lot of practice, or all of your practice at this point, early morning into the early afternoon. So I believe that you should take advantage of your peak time. Make sure you take breaks consistently. Don't force yourself to sit and review materials if you know you aren't retaining, if you're not being efficient. And really make sure that when you are using your time, that you're being smart about it, meaning that you're using strategies and techniques that best complement your learning style. That is most important. Bar prep is not a one-size-fits-all type of scenario, so you want to make sure that how you learn and how you're retaining and understanding analysis is tailored to what works best for you.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I'll jump in really quick. I think that was spot on advice. If I could add to it a little bit, the idea, right, of making sure you know what's good for you and how you learn best, right? So this is a time when I say, if you want to go off book, right, if you want to take a look at what they're recommending you do, as well as your law school is, take a step back and really think, how do you learn best? What do you need? Is it more MBEs? Is it more MPTs? Is it essay work? Really, now is the time to assess and figure out what you need to do. And it is okay to depart from the schedule a little bit. It's scary, but it's okay to modify it, right? You know yourself best, and feel free to do that. One other item of advice just from last year that really sticks out. I've had students tell me, oh, this must be the time when I need to go hard. I need to be 12 hours a day and I need to ramp up. I usually say it's the opposite, right? I think you do need to go in rested to some extent. I had a student last year where he said, I'm going to go really hard. And again, this will not be you. I promise this won't be you because you're on this call. He fell asleep on the actual bar. So that will not be you because you've heard this message, but I just want to pass it on to you. Self-care and really pacing yourself. This exam is sort of a major event, and we want you to be rested, well prepared, but rested.
I'll jump in real quick. I echo what everyone else is saying here, that time management is get used to waking up early, get used to being sharp, taking MBEs. I'm encouraging the people taking the California bar, because the MBE is now a morning session that they should get up early and try to take at least 33 or 50 questions in the morning that they can just get their brains warmed up and ready for the day. And then in terms of spacing things out, I give an analogy to the Super Bowl. It's not that you're practicing so hard the week before the Super Bowl, you're walking through it. And you're walking through your plays, you're recognizing what the situations are, your strengths and weaknesses, but you're not trying to burn yourself out. So I feel bad for the student that fell asleep, but I can commiserate that I've heard that story before as well.
Okay, so I think that was some really great advice. Let's talk about stamina during the actual bar exam. We also had a lot of questions about how bar takers can keep their stamina up, not feel too tired, not like dealing with eye strain and exhaustion during the day, 2-3 days that they're taking the bar exam. So Ru, do you want to start with that?
Sure. I'm going to echo what John said. I mean, the Super Bowl example makes sense because you truly are training for this exam, okay? And you're training your body, you're training your mind, and all that. And so it's really important for you to hone your skills in a way that any other athlete would. So whether it's doing practice questions every morning to get your mind up and running, or it's spending long hours at your desk, you know, doing the studying and doing your practice exams, et cetera, see when you start to tap out. What happens when you start getting tired? Make sure that you have snacks at handy so you don't lose your energy, etc. And really focus on, this is your time. You're a month out almost. This is your time to see like what works and what doesn't work during this time. So that way you can hone in and be that well-oiled machine on exam day. Absolutely. And caffeine always helps, right?
I actually want to add to that. I agree with what Rhubat said. I believe that simulation is key at this point. I always encourage my students to remember that this is a marathon and not a sprint. You do not want to reach your peak until you actually get to exam day. So I encourage simulation, and I do encourage extended simulation. So simulating components of the exam, sitting in your seat and answering questions for the 3-hour period. And be mindful with the snacks and the caffeine, because I am a caffeine junkie. I drank coffee my entire process of studying, but I had to be mindful prior to closer to the exam that I wouldn't be allowed to have caffeine in my space and bring it into the testing space. So time yourself, make sure that you start practicing the way you want to play at least 2 weeks prior to the exam, so that you can time when you drink coffee. Will it affect you having to go to the restroom? Because some jurisdictions are not allowing restroom breaks during components of the exam. So that's something to be mindful of. And if you need a snack, time it out prior to starting the exam. Unless you have some type of accommodation, you will not be permitted to have snacks in your space. So you want to make sure that you don't, overeat, but you eat something prior to the exam, and let it be something that you've tried before. The day of the exam is not the time to try new things and experiment on what your taste buds would like. You want to be mindful of that you do eat something that will be agreeable with you.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really basic, right? But we forget that these things are so important. Your body really gets used to what it's used to, and it's going to react differently every time you do something different. I think I ate, honestly, like my health was the best when I was studying for the bar, because I was eating the same things every single day. I was working out for every single day for 20 minutes. Like, I've never been more disciplined than I was during the bar. I wish I could go back to that sometimes. All right, so a couple of questions about just feeling stuck during the exam. If you forget a rule, how to jump in and sort of either take a beat or just trying to, we had a lot of questions about this, about feeling stuck, forgetting a rule. Do I keep going, or do I stop and reset? If I stop, how do I do that? Jonathan, do you want to start with that?
Sure, happy to. This is a very common question that I get as well, because we are responsible, or you are responsible, for knowing so much information in such a short period of time and having the ability to recall that. I can tell that, especially when it comes to people that are taking California Bar, that the way that the questions are written, if you can't recall the law, the bar gives you enough facts and they're giving you enough information within the problem that you can make up a reasonable rule. Part of doing so many multiple choice questions and reading over so many practice essays, whether it's in California or UBE jurisdictions or other jurisdictions, is that hopefully your bar company or your school has provided you with plenty of past exams. So you can recall similar to something that you've read before, you've done before. And every time I look at a bar essay, or I teach it in my class, or we offer mock exams to our students, we're saying that if you can't make it up, don't give up. Read the question again. There's something in there that can be mined that will help you survive it. A lot of times what the bar is trying to do is they're trying to distract you, so that that first call is going to throw you off your center. And then because you feel defeated, you feel shaken, and now you feel like you can't answer the rest of the question. The goal is to survive the question and then move on to the next one. Because it's if you have a bad first essay, you don't want that. You're going to say, I'm going to do the best to my ability. I'm going to answer this call to the best of my ability. And the second, third, or fourth call will be probably more straightforward. So what I would say is that read the fact pattern again. If you're looking at something and you're forgetting something, read from that, and then you can, when they say make up the rule, make it up reasonably based on what they give you. You're just not making up rules out of thin air. That's my advice.
Chris, do you want to jump in or should we move on to the?
Yeah, I guess I have, I think everything John just said is spot on. And I think I want to borrow, I think a lot of us know Richard Sakai. He's sort of this legend from Barbary. He has this great saying of, okay, you take that deep breath and you start thinking about the 12 subjects that are on the bar and you start eliminating, right? Is this a criminal law? No, it's not criminal. You know, is it torts? Oh, you know what? I think it's torts, right? And then you problem solve your way to which subjects could this be? And then from there, you try to envision sort of your 1-page or 2-page outline, and then you just start process of elimination. I've had students say they knew it was torts, so they dumped every heading they could think of from all of torts in their answer, and then they went and filled in the ones that seemed to work based on the facts. It's not ideal, right? But absolutely, you can problem solve your way through it. And like Jonathan said, it's going to be maybe just one essay, right? The rest of them, you are going to be well equipped to do it. So don't let one bad essay or one bad experience sort of derail you. You have to have that short memory, and remember, you have the entire rest of the exam to nail it.
Thank you. So the next question was about memorization and information overload in the last stretch. I think a lot of bar takers are really doing the bulk of their memorization in the last 3 weeks. That's at least what I did. And so folks asked about strategies to memorize, what you think works, what doesn't work, and asked about what do you do when you're feeling an information overload, or you're feeling like you just don't know enough and you're already at the last stretch. I know that's a lot of different questions, but so they're all kind of under the umbrella of memorization and information overload. So Tatisha, do you want to start?
Sure. So I want to reiterate that whenever you try to memorize, it should be during the time when you're most efficient. And I do believe that you should have good time management and make sure you have focused time when you're trying to commit things to memorization. So I like to encourage, and I'm an advocate for the Pomodoro method, when you spend 25 minutes of active time followed by a 5-minute break. And you can ultimately at some point build up your focus time when you're actually maybe spending 50 minutes followed by a 10-minute break. So I do believe in chunking your time out so that you aren't sitting for extended periods just trying to memorize, because at some point you will check out and you will not begin or continue to retain information. How you memorize is going to be tailored to your learning style. So it's going to be based on whether you are an auditory learner, a visual learner, kinesthetic, or a reading and writing learner. And you want to make sure that whatever strategy you put into practice for memorization, it complements your style. For example, if you're a visual learner, you might like charting information or mind mapping information. That could be helpful for you. If you're auditory, you may be the person that needs to speak aloud and dictate your notes to yourself, and then have discussions with your study group about it. Listening to lectures over again will also help auditory learners. If you're a reading and writing learner, those are typically the folks that like to write their rules and the application of the rule over and over again, maybe on a dry erase board to help with memorization. And going through that process will help them not only understand, but be a better issue spotter when it comes to issue spotting the rule and then being able to analyze it correctly. With my kinesthetic learners, usually those are the folks who have to get active and moving when they're trying to retain information. So I encourage those types of learners to maybe take walks or stand up and move around in the room when they are actually trying to retain information. Speaking aloud and associating concepts with some type of hand movement would help. Also, any type of gaming software that your commercial company may provide will also be desirable for kinesthetic learners, such as Barbary Amp, which is like kind of like a moving around gaming, almost like an online gaming type system that's designed to teach you the black letter law. So I really believe that you have to know yourself and what type of learner you are, what has worked for you, what best practices work when it comes to making, allowing yourself to remember information and being able to recall it a week to 2 weeks out. And whatever practice that is, I think you need to continue with that over and over again on a daily basis as you move from one substantive area of law to the next.
Anyone else want to jump in? Or we can move on.
I thought that was really good, Tatisha. That was fantastic. I think the only thing I would add to that is if you are feeling informational overload, one strategy that worked for me was to just start switching to doing practice questions, because when I would read a practice question, and I did this no matter what, you want to read the answer to see why you got it right, or even if you got it right or whether you got it wrong. Because there are plenty of times when I got something right just because I guessed, and I realized, oh wait, I need to know what this is. And then on my actual bar exam, I remember I had a UCC Section 9 question that came up on the essays. And the only reason I knew it is because I had gone through that before and just read through the answers on the essays. And I remember saying, oh, wow, I only knew this because I got it wrong in my exam. So I knew or in my practices. So I wasn't going to get it wrong towards the actual exam. So when you are feeling burnt out, apply those rules, apply that memorization that you know, and do it on the practice questions, because you're shifting your mind to a different focus. And then you're going to very quickly learn what you don't know.
Just to add, Tatisha, I agree with everything that you're saying. And some people, they love mind mapping. Some people, they love flashcards. So Critical Pass has been a popular resource for some people. I've seen where students in our law school, when we had the ability to, they would get in our library and they would take over classrooms or study rooms, and they would whiteboard, and they would literally just start writing issues out or writing rules out and key elements, but they would color code it and put them into different buckets. So if you're doing Fourth Amendment, then you would just do that like in black, and then Fifth Amendment, you do it in red, and Sixth Amendment, maybe you do it in green, but different ways to color code so that when you see something, you know how to group information and you know what you need to respond to. A bar question is going to ask multiple issues upon you. And so it's not that you have to recite A to Z. I think that when we were in college or high school and we had to recite the Gettysburg Address perfectly, or we had to recite something word for word, sure, that makes it extremely difficult because it's a large bit of prose. But I think that when you're looking for the bar exam, you want to be able to spot the issue and then recall the information of just what you need on that issue, and that will build confidence.
Yeah, thank you. So couple of people asked this. They're a few weeks out. Some of them are about a month out. And they asked, what should we do when we don't feel adequately prepared or feel like they don't know enough and they're a few weeks out from the exam? I don't know who wants to start, but feel free to jump in as always.
I can maybe start this round off. So a few thoughts, right? Most of you, I understand, are taking the bar, I think October 5th or 6th, which is about, we're within a month or so. But a big sort of theme when I work with students is you will get there if you've been prepping, sort of putting your effort in throughout the summer. It is absolutely a process, right? So for those of you who follow sports, you have to trust that process. By the end, assuming you've done your work diligently all summer, in that last week or so, you will start to say, you know what, it's coming together. I'm remembering things, and you will be often pleasantly surprised how ready you do feel. But you are going to feel pretty unsettled for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I wish I could tell you you're going to feel really great tomorrow, but you have to keep that sort of steady focus, that routine. And by the end, most people feel like, you know what, I don't think I can learn anymore. I think I'm ready to take this test. So trust the process.
I want to add, that was great, Chris. I agree. Definitely feel uneasy a few weeks prior to the exam. I want to add that it's also important to track your performance on your practice and identify the areas of law you keep missing within each substantive area. So the subtopics that you keep missing, and then track the laws that you're missing along with how that law was tested in that question. And I encourage students to review that at least once a week by subject, at least for like one time for torts once a week, and so on for the other subjects, making sure that you pay attention to the areas that you can consistently miss. Why? Because you may identify first that you're beginning to master the material the more you look at it, but also you'll be able to identify patterns in which the examiners test multis and essays. And they can be only but so creative when they're writing out the multiple choice questions, and you will see patterns based on your state with the essay questions. So it's important to track your performance. That's the only way you're going to see improvement, if you make note of it and then go back and use your study skills to review the content that you continue to miss.
All right, should we move on to the next question? Okay, So the next question was the most common question that we received, which is about staying motivated and continuing to push on when you just feel like you can't. I think we got over 20 questions in this vein only. So the most common question, feel free, whoever wants to start. If all of you want to pitch in one at a time, that's great too.
I'll go quickly. Really to just stay motivated, everyone. If you are a first gen, if you're surrounded by loving friends and family, what motivates you? What motivated you to go to law school? What inspires you? Who inspires you? Why do you want to do this? You know, this is a grueling process to have gone through 3 to 4 years worth of law school, and you're doing this for you. And what we do at USF is I start every student off before they start their bar prep, and I have them write a letter to themselves about why they want to do this. What do they want to do with their careers? How do they want to help people? And in the darkest of time, when you feel like you're hitting the wall, I tell them to pull that letter out and read it to themselves. And it gets them going, it gets them fired up. And you know, you are the biggest motivator in why you want to do something and why you want to succeed. And it's that drive and what's going to make you a successful attorney. If no one's forcing you to take this test, but you want to support each other so that you can you know, support your family supporting you, but just believe. You got to believe. That's really important. It's totally attainable to pass this bar exam.
I just want to add to what Jonathan said, and I think that was perfect, Jonathan. I always encourage students to remember your why. Write it down and look at it every day and use that as motivation to continue on. And remember, there are thousands of folks who have gone through this exact same process, maybe not during a global pandemic, and they're no smarter than you, and they've made it through, and it's because of hard work and consistency. So I encourage you, just look at your why, stay true to your why, and allow that to be kind of like what you focus on when you have tunnel vision towards the latter part of your study.
I'll add one thought. I think that is all spot on, the why, right? Remember to dig down, remember why you're doing this. Somebody sent me a great email that I thought was really insightful. She said, a lot of times we sort of dread the bar, like it's something that we're not looking forward to, right? Going to the dentist, whatever it might be. I want you to view this more as this is the culmination of what you've worked so hard for. This should actually counterintuitively be exciting. I know that's easy for me to say to you, but you know, you've gone to law school, right? 3 years, 4 years, however long it took, and everything you've done, sort of, you've earned this. You have earned the right to take this exam, right? So view this as an opportunity to show what you know, to give it your best shot. And then I had somebody else tell me, you know, I've come to peace with this exam where, given everything that you've gone through, especially in this last few months, right? Knowing everything that's going on. She said, if I don't pass, I realized it's gonna be okay. I'm going to be a lawyer. So just remember that. Just remember that.
I thought all that was great. I think I was one of those ones that was very excited to take the bar exam because, again, I'm in that athlete mode the whole time. But remember, it's a standardized test. It's a harder standardized test, but it is a standardized test. It can be mastered just like any other standardized test out there. The answers are there, so many people will get it right? Like that is, so just think glass half full, and really try to stay positive while you're doing it. And again, that will keep your motivation up, and look to the people around you to support you if you have them around you. But also, it's maybe one good thing to come out of the pandemic where you can spend all this time studying and not be distracted by beaches and whatnot. So.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I think we don't have too many questions left, so I'll just go through the one question. Actually, I'll read the question that somebody sent in live first. So that was, what advice do you have for someone who is working a full-time schedule the week before the bar exam?
I would I'll chime in on this one because I actually have worked with a lot of students that have worked full-time jobs while studying, and it's feasible. I think that you need to take full advantage of any downtime you have at work, whether it be your time prior to going into work, lunch breaks, 15-minute breaks. You need to utilize that time. And again, in a way that works with your learning style and when you're most efficient. So I think that if you are able to wake up a couple hours early, maybe if you're still watching lectures, you could watch lectures or do practice questions prior to going into work, and then use maybe your break time throughout the day to review the answers to those questions. And then I would encourage folks to, typically take an hour off after work and then go into review mode. And understand that if you are working a full-time job, you're just going to have that extra level of commitment to getting through the process. It's still not a shortcut around it. You still have to do the work and commit to it. So you would have to maybe spend a little bit more time in the evening, making sure that you've covered the substantive material and study the way that you need to. But I don't encourage when you're working full time to just cram all night. You don't need to do an all-nighter, but you got to have a clear start time and a clear finish time.
Anyone else want to jump in, or should I move on? Okay. So the next question, we got one question live on this topic and a couple submitted through the sign up request, which was about taking an open book exam, focusing on the exam and not spending too much time looking through notes because they don't want to feel underprepared, etc. What they should have around them in an open book exam. I think so that's kind of the combination of all the open book exam questions that we received. Chris, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think you all probably have some good instincts already based on the question even itself, right? Is to try to memorize it and be prepared beforehand so you're not relying on any outlines or materials. One thought is to have a binder, if they're allowing you to have a binder, one-page checklist per subject of all of the issues in the order that makes sense to you, tabbed even, so that if you get torts, you're opening it up, you've got your one pager, borrowing from Jonathan, you color code it, right? Make it readable, easy to see. But I also think a word of caution, right? With open book exams, everybody should be able to produce that rule. So I would take the time to issue spot carefully. Don't overdo it on the rule, and remember that analysis is where those points are going to be. So those are my thoughts.
Anyone else want to add anything to that? I think we're going to get ready to wrap up here with the last question. I don't know if any of you actually have any input. We got 2 questions about where to study during the pandemic if the home environment isn't ideal. I don't know if you have any ideas or if you want to jump in, and it's totally okay if you don't. So
yeah, I was very stressed out by all those fellow law students in the libraries, so I actually didn't study in the libraries as much. The weather is still somewhat nice, so I recommend waking up early and trying to find a quiet spot outside if you can, especially if you have flashcards and outlines and that sort of stuff. That makes it much easier. I do understand needing to leave the home environment in order to get work done. I myself have been sneaking into my office to get work done these days because the home environment is very tough. So trying to find a quiet spot where you can be undisturbed and do your own thing is great. Unfortunately, right now, it's very hard to find any places of business that will allow you to do that, right? Like, coffee shops, et cetera. Libraries are not open either. But to the extent that the weather is nice where you are, I would recommend waking up early and finding a quiet park or wherever it may be and trying to get your work done there. Otherwise, if you do really need to be in the home environment, set some ground rules with the folks that are in your home too. Like, this is my time, this is my schedule, I need you to not bother me, and really adhere to those because it's extremely important.
Yeah, I don't know about all of your parents. My parents don't understand rules. Like, rules, what is that? No, that's not a thing that happens in our house. So but I agree with Rue. I think if you're firm enough, hopefully the message gets through. But we all understand that most of our parents don't have, or our families don't have those types of boundaries, right? Yeah, but all right. Anyone else want to jump in about where to study? I have one more question that came in live.
I would also recommend exploring any mentors you have in the area or any alumni, your alumni base. You may have attorneys in that space that would be willing to offer up office space. I know at my previous school, many of our alumni were willing to donate space to our students to let them study during the pandemic. So that's something to be mindful of. And I've even had students, if your budget permits, maybe renting a space. I don't know, if you have the funds to do so, but there are options out there. And there are some counties that still have their local libraries open. So you could explore to see, even if your local library is open, probably most of them are closed, as Ruth said, but there may be some instances where your local library is open.
All right, the last live question we have is, do you have any advice for taking the remote exam? How to create a study type environment?
I can start with because I've had several conversations with our examiners in Pennsylvania about this remote exam. I think you definitely need to take advantage of the simulated exams that they will make available to you prior to the exam. I know Pennsylvania is offering 3. So I've encouraged our folks to take advantage of all 3, because you do want to get acclimated with having to read and process information on a screen as opposed to in written format or type format. So that's one. And then make sure that you take advantage of the notes option that will be available on Exemplify. It'll be on the right side of the screen. You want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with typing into that space, understanding how to highlight the content properly, and understanding how to make sure that your notes section actually carries over with you if you need to go from one page of the document to the next. In Pennsylvania, our students are allowed to have paper to take notes during the PT section, but all other components, they have to utilize the notes function. And that is true for all of my other students who are taking out-of-state bar exams. So just familiarize yourself with the material. Start now. Again, I am a firm believer that you practice the way you want to play. So the only way you can make sure you are performing at your best, even with this online format and having no paper, is to start practicing and simulating what that will be like early.
Closing remarks from anybody?
I would just say, and it's been reiterated a few times by Tatisha and John and Chris and myself, like, I love what you just said right there, practice the way you play, because that is the most important way to master the bar exam. I mean, you don't, even the day of the actual exam, save a few questions to do that morning over breakfast, because you don't want the first time you think to be on the actual exam, okay? So if you get a few wrong, no big deal, you know what I mean? Don't, it's really important to sit there and hone your mind in this last 3-week, month-long stretch to become the best bar exam athlete that you can be, right? And your minds can do it. Everyone is well equipped to do it. You've grueled through law school and all that sort of stuff, and just whatever it is to motivate yourself. I don't care if you have to play Eye of the Tiger for yourself or whatever it may be, and I am not a sports person at all, okay? But I just really dove into that. And I tell all my students about that when I was back in my Barbary days. And it's really, really, really phenomenal if you think of it in that mindset, right? So of course, just make sure that you're just constantly always challenging yourself and tricking yourself into thinking critically about what the answer may be. Because as soon as you rest on your laurels and think you got this and all that sort of stuff, that's when things tend to slip up and you forget things and all that sort of stuff. So it's really, really important to keep challenging yourself over the course of these next few weeks. Take ample amount of rest as well, because you want to be well honed and well rested for the exam. But certainly, when in doubt, just try and switch things up a little bit to keep yourself guessing a bit.
Awesome. Anyone else want to jump in? All good? All right.
I just want to remind you, everyone, to be kind to themselves, have balance, and understand that you guys are doing something that no other practicing attorney has done, and that's study for a bar exam during a global pandemic. So give yourself grace and be kind, and just know that, you need to surround yourself, as Ruth said, with positive affirmations, making sure that you pour into yourself. And you are your biggest critic, but you need to also be your biggest fan. So surround yourself with positive affirmations. When you believe you can't, remember that you can.
All right. I think that's it. All right, Anika, do you want to close out?
Sure. Thank you so much on behalf of the Young Lawyers Division of the South Asian Bar Association and the National Bar Association. We would like to thank our speakers today. Thank you so much for your wisdom and encouragement. Can we give them a virtual hands? To the attendees, know that we are thinking of you, we are rooting for you, and we are ready to celebrate with each and every one of you. And I hope you have a good day and continue to study.
Thank you. We are recording this, so if you want to access it afterwards, please feel free to reach out to Anika or myself, and we'll make it available to whoever wants this. Thank you so much, speakers. We appreciate your
everybody.
time. Good luck, bar exam takers.
Good luck. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.